We are here on the map of Waterfall to start off this series. And without further ado, spawning here at the bottom left, we have our blue Zerg player from ENC Esports. It is Serral.
In the top right from Team Liquid, he's the young European Terran. His name is Clem.
You know, I kind of realized that Clem, he used to rock this Happy Star decal. He has changed it into more of a kind of a polar bear claw.
Yeah, going for the theme, you know. he's got the mlem, you know. He's got the little polar bear doing the little tongue thing. So he's got the paw. I like it. I like it. He's got a theme going. He's got a style.
Yeah, I like it too.
But yeah, this is going to be an interesting matchup. We are on to Waterfall for map number 1. This is one of these smaller maps in the map pool with a pretty straightforward rush distance as well. And so it's quite an interesting map because you have the third base that most people take directly kind of in line with the mains. Has 2 ramps to the side but no ramp at the front. And so this has kind of a variety of things that can happen. You've seen tank pushes, you've seen all sorts of Hellbat rushes on this map. But overall, it seems like Terrans like to be pretty aggressive on these bases just because there's some nice positions that you can take advantage of. But as we were saying, you know, this is a matchup where Serral has been in incredible form this year. And so, you know, he's currently the #1 player in the world, like ranked on illegal accolades, ranked #1. He has been there for a while, but you know, he's still there. Like, it's always, I feel like it's always this case where we're like, oh yeah, Serral, is he's still good, right? And then he plays, and we're like, oh yeah, he's still very good, even after all this time. You know, Serral has been at the top for, I mean, ever since he peaked in, what was it, 2018?
Yep.
Was when he had that incredible just kind of
God mode, basically.
Yeah, when just undisputed best player in the world, and then there have been a few slumps here and there, and that happens with every player, but then it always feels like Serral just comes back and he's right back into it, and he's right back in form, and we're like, how does he do it time after time? As for Clem, you know, Clem definitely had a period where people were looking at him and like, wow, this guy is, he's the next, you know, he's the next big Terran. And I definitely feel like that hype is very deserved when Clem is, you know, practicing a lot and when his form is good. You know, when he's really kind of, when everything is working like a well-oiled machine, Clem is incredible. But it has been a little bit since we've seen, like, I think, peak Clem. You know, it's definitely been a lot of working on the smaller things with the macro, and so it's going to be interesting to see what we get here in this series, because, you know, again, it's been a Serral win streak. It's you know, it's 9-1. Clem has not had the best success against Serral recently.
Yeah, it just seems like, you know, he doesn't have that favorable matchup against Serral. And in the world where if Serral was not, you know, alive, then, and like never existed, you would wonder like how far Clem would have gone. Like, would we be looking at Clem as we are looking at Serral right now, as, you know, the undisputed champion? I mean, of course there's Rainer, you know, and all, but Clem could have easily been, you know, in 2018 winning all those all those games and tournaments. But yeah, I think, you know, the playstyle just, I think, favors Serral, because Serral, his playstyle is, you know, scout and then respond. You know, scout, respond, scout, respond. And then Clem, he does not really play, you know, he doesn't really, he played very straightforward. He doesn't just like, he's not like Rainer, who, you know, all of a sudden can change a build order on the fly and then just metagame or play some mind trick on Serral. I think because of that, you know, Serral usually is able to figure out what Clem is going for and then just counter that with that.
Yeah, that definitely feels like the case. I think in the past, Clem has just, as I said, been a very straightforward player. I mean, even in this game, he is going for that pretty fast third command center. We'll be getting up his double upgrades fairly shortly, and then also working on his stim. It looks like he's going to be gearing up for this tank push while the 4 Hellions are out on the map applying pressure. But he's a straight up player, and that is the type of play that it feels like Serral is the strongest in. When it is just straight up macro, Serral just has to scout. He has to read and respond to the game state. Serral is so strong in those situations where it is reactive play, and time after time again we just see it where players will try and play like straight up pressure, and Serral will just outgrow them and just out macro them exponentially.
Yeah, I think you know, for Clem, you know, his main strength is in the engagement in the micro, winning battles after battles. However, when he faces off against Serral, you know, he's also equally great in his engagements and micro. So it gets a bit tougher for Clem to deal with. So, you know, it's really up to Clem to try to catch Serral off guard with something surprising, and then just play from there.
Yeah, I mean, for right now though, it's going to be, again, it's straight up. It is the 3cc opening that just Clem has done time and time again. This is his bread and butter. He's so good at this opening, as Baneling Focus Fire is going to come down there, and Creep is getting cleaned up. So without the Baneling speed, it's pretty hard for Serral to really stop this immediately. But the threat level is also not that high. It's just some Marines with a medevac. The tanks are being kept at home as a second factory will be added on, and the armory as well to get up those +2/+2 upgrades. Other than that, though, it's 5 racks. It is, again, as standard gets. Good pickup there from Clem is going to avoid a lot of the splash damage from the Banelings. Focus is down one more, and it's just going to get on out. This is all just pressure from Clem. This is trying to stop the Zerg from growing too quickly. You know, forcing him to build Zerglings, forcing Banelings. You know, Serral has to respect it, but behind this, Serral is still growing. 73 workers, 4 bases. Infestation Pit is already completed, so we'll see whether that's just going to be for infestors, or we're going to see that quicker hive to get into the lurkers, which lurker tech has not been as popular in TVZ. It, of course, still is seen, but just with the lurker nerfs, it is not as an ever like omnipresent unit in this matchup.
Alright, looks like Serral is setting up a sandwich here. And here we go. He's going to go ahead and come from the back at the same time.
Oh,
and it looks like Serral going to clean this up fairly well.
Yeah, I mean, this was a great fight, though, for Clem. I mean, the Hellbats just traded so well. The Baneling target fire is really good. And so most of them, in fact, almost all of the Marines are going to survive. You're looking at that actual trade. Yeah, really good. 3 Marines, a tank, and 4 Hellbats for, what, 64 Zerglings, 15 Banelings. Another drop is also going to be going towards this third base and trying to hop around, but Serral responds extremely well, splits his units immediately, and Serral's just so good at responding to these situations. Clem has to back up on the other side again, trying to snipe off these Banelings, doing a very good job of it before he has to back on up. But yeah, no, the trades have been really good for Clem so far. 950 minerals lost, 175 gas to 3,500 minerals and 600 gas. This has been extreme efficiency out of Clem so far with these pushes, and now he's adding on more. He has Widow Mines with Drilling Claws, 3 more tanks heading towards the left side of this map to pressure the 5th base. Because Clem knows you really can't let that 5th base go up. That is where this game is going to start to snowball out of control, is if he lets that 5th go up, as the hive is on the way. Clem is actually up 20 supply right now against Serral, who does need to, I mean, bring something here to defend against this push. The tanks are very far back, though. This tank position does not really allow for, you know, an extreme amount of pressure on this hatchery. It is, the tanks are defensive, the Widow Mines are defensive. The Marines are going to need to pull back as soon as Serral decides to engage, but it is a large army for Clem. I mean, 99 army supply to 94. Adrenal Glands is on the way, 2-2 is on the way, but right now with even upgrades, I don't know. This is a hard fight, as Widow Mines are going to burrow. This is a massive surround here by Serral, as the Widow Mine drags are going to come through. A lot of the Lings are getting cleaned out, but I think Clem is just going to have to pick on up as Serral comes through. The Baneling target fire, though. Man, Clem is just so good.
Yeah, that was some great target firing by Clem. And the Serral's going to go ahead and be forced back, and, you know, he's mainly relying on Lings and Banelings, so it's really coming down to whether Clem can kite and also target fire on those Banelings. Now, the tanks are all cleaned up, so right now, He's mainly working off of Widow Mines and Marines, so if you can kind of, you know, target the Widow Mine on the Baneling clumps and then maybe kite his Marines, then he should be alright. But gotta be careful not to overextend over to creep.
Dude, Serral is just so good. It is ridiculous. Look at these splits. Serral does not let those Widow Mines hit as he cleans up all of them, taking very, very few losses. 2-2 done for both players. That resources lost is still definitely in favor of Clem. I mean, 4,000 versus 8,000. 3-3 is on the way now for Serral, who should be adding on Ultralisk. I believe is going to be the next part as Widow Mine drops come through, but don't find him a lot of damage. Serral has just been really denying a lot here. But one thing to keep track of, Clem, so much pressure has been being applied. You know, he constantly has at least a drop on the other side of the map, as again, another Widow Mine is not going to find a connection. But behind this, the creep spread for Serral has not been that good. Those splits are just absolutely incredible. And so Clem is able to keep this pressure going because he's been pressuring the creep, because he's been stopping it from spreading. As already Clem is just has this pre-split sled up. Finally, a Widow Mine is going to hit. Fungal or Parasitic Bomb needs to be used just to push back these medevacs. But Clem is just, man, this game is playing so well. Mind you, behind this, he's on 4 bases. He's on 80 workers, working on a 5th command center. As soon as Serral comes in here to collapse, Clem should just pick it on up. He realizes, yeah, he's not going to be able to stay. Another Parasitic Bomb goes down, but those are split away from, as mines are not going to be able to go off. One does find a good connection, drags on top of the Marines, as Serral is trying to snowball this. And those Widow Mines are just not being allowed to hit as they try and come in here to the 3rd. But the tank is already here. There are reinforcements on the top of the ramp. I don't know if Serral is going to be able to continue to push this. He will find worker damage, though. 14 SCVs go down before he has to retreat.
All right, looks like Clem has, or sorry, Serral has bought enough time here to bring out the Ultralisk. He was trying to tech all the way into Ultralisk, which kind of made him kind of in a bit of a dangerous situation because he's just really just mainly relying on Banelings and Lings.
Oh my god.
But now, oh, actually he's not even able to make the Ultralisk yet because Clem is keeping up with the pressure.
Oh, Widow Mine hit is good. Banelings go down. Yeah, no, Clem is just, he's playing this game wonderfully. I mean, this is the Clem that we want to see. This is the Clem who's constantly attacking, constantly pressuring. The micro has been impeccable with splitting away his Marines and Marauders, and he's been killing off this creep. I mean, look at the creep spread. It's barely past the hatcheries. That's how good Clem has been doing with this pressure, as 2 Ultras are on the way. But, I mean, you already have Liberators out. Ghost Academy is a little bit late, but it's finally being built, as the +3 armor now is going to be added on to complement the +3 attack, as these Banelings are just not finding efficient trades at all. Serral, 3 Ultras. This is what's going to be trying to keep him in the game, as the 6th base has been established on the bottom right side of the map. The 5th is being pressured, but man, right now, Clem doing so well. His own 5th is going to go up. He's going to clean up that Ling run by. And I think the really big story here is because Clem has been applying all this pressure, not only is creep spread stopped, but Serral has not been allowed to do as many run-bys as he wants. Only now are we going to see a run-by coming into that 3rd. But, I mean, Clem already has a bunker there. He has a bunker. It is going to be blown up here by the Banelings, so it will just get cleaned out. The tank, though, will eventually be able to clean up those Zerglings. As Clem is trying to take some inefficient trades here at the front. 8 SCVs will go down. He's going to have to back on up, start to reproduce his army now with Ghosts, Widow Mines, and more Liberators. As, yeah, eventually that run-by is cleaned up. But the good news for Serral is, hey, he kept the base alive, as Banelings are going to try and roll on in here. Not going to be able to blow up the command center, though, and that's a pretty big blunder for Serral. You kill 5 SCVs, but you lose a bunch of Banelings and an Ultralisk. But look at this, another run-by coming into the 3rd base once again. Widow Mines not going to find that good connections. The Ghosts are here to help defend, but I mean, Clem just has to bring everything back here just to make sure that he's not going to lose too much. 67 workers now for the Terran. It's still a comfortable position because, mind you, you got those mules. You can keep up that production behind this as more and more Liberators on the way. Serral, though, is still, you know, he's still expanding. He's still getting larger and larger. 6-base Zerg right now, working on 7 bases, 7 hatcheries. Actually, 8 hatcheries with the macro hatch in the main. And it's also 90 workers. So Serral can start to outproduce Clem since he hasn't lost the bases despite all its pressure. And that's just, I mean, it's what Serral does best. He just absorbs all of this pressure. It feels like the other player is doing so well, but it's just never enough to kill Serral, as these banelings are going to try and catch up to this entire bio army at the same time. The third base is being ravaged, and this is the moment here for Serral where he just tries to win the game. The banelings are going to blow up the planetary. I mean, a lot of ultras go down, but you clean out 2 mineral lines, 2 bases go down. Serral is going to lose a lot to that Liberator, forces drones off of the 6th. But it just feels like, man, Serral doing so well. Finally, that hatchery will be sniped, though, as Clem is just going to back on up to the Liberator and does manage to at least trade 1 base here.
Whew. Couple of very scary minutes and very back and forth. A lot of back and forth action. It looks like Serral is starting to stabilize here as he's pushing back. I do think that he should extend the creep a little bit more further, as he does have the opportunity to do so, but actually, oh man, I'm not.
I don't know if this is. Yeah. I don't know if this is the best fight here for Serral. I mean, sure, you're in the lead, but losing that many Ultralisks is just such a massive investment. And at the same time, I mean, you know, again, Clem has mules. Clem is still in this game, and so you can't just afford to take trades like that. Look at the supplies; they're so even. As this Liberator is going to get denied here, Clem not going to be able to find much value with that, as this base is going to be planted. The 6th command center now coming down, a Liberator to defend. And this is the crazy part about Waterfall. These bases are so close. This 8th base for any player is so close to the 7th. It is, or the 6th. It is just ridiculous. You cannot take it. That 7th base, sorry, for any player is so close to the 6th. It is just, it is impossible to expand to them unless you're extremely far ahead. So you're going to see Clem, he has to abandon this top left position because his whole army is down here on the right side of the map, as banelings are going to blow up a singular ghost. Liberator will be pushed away. I don't think Clem can continue to pressure this position, as Zergling run by is going to be able to get that base, and this is even with Clem's whole army in this position. Oh, as Serral trying to collapse on in. The Marauders trying to kite this back, focus fire onto the Ultras, but it's not quite enough. There are no more ghosts for the snipes. And with 20 workers going down, that is a massive loss for Clem.
And these Ling run-bys has been just godsend for Serral. It's keeping him back in the game. While Clem just wants to keep on the pressure against Serral, but he can't fully do so with these Ling run-bys. He's got to send some reinforcements over to clean them up. And now, Serral enjoying an 81 to 41 worker supply lead. However, the army supply is quite close.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing Clem here push in. Does manage to snipe the base, and I mean, I think that's what Clem wanted there, was to snipe that base. That was the kind of the damage he was looking for.
Yeah, it's getting to that point where it's just going to be really difficult for Serral to claim bases.
Oh, fungal growth!
Oh.
Infestors being added in here by Serral is going to be able to collapse on half of that army and clean it up. The drag from the Widowmine fire onto all of the Marines. And I think Serral has done it. The Ultras are going to destroy this 5th base here for Clem, as the rest of the army is just going to fight Zerglings. It's barely going to survive. And man, this was a close game, but Serral just manages to pull it out.
Yeah, that fungal was so huge that just really basically changed the momentum, and Serral going to be able to despite the lack of creep spread and also not as much bases as he would like right now, I think those Ultralisks is really packing a punch for him. How many Ultralisks is that? 6 only. Okay. It looked like it was more, but still, that's a lot of Ultralisks.
Yeah, no, it is a lot. Ghosts are being added back on here for Clem. He's at 90 supply right now. Definitely is not a comfortable position, and you still have those burrowed infestors looking for that fungal growth in this army. I mean, it is just so scary, those Ultras. Oh, Serral, a bit of a mistake there, as Clem's just going to try and take this fight, but the infestor, the fungal growth, it is just brutal as everything gets blown up. There is no more mining left for Clem. And he scans that Serral has in fact added on that top left base. And just does not feel like there's any more holding on here for the French Terran, as he's just going to get pushed back into his natural. Banelings are going to finish this game off, and Serral is going to take game number 1. And I mean, it was close. Clem made it close, but again, it's just what Serral does. He holds on, he survives, he just continues to grow, and eventually he's going to outlast you. It's not a question.
Yeah, you know, I guess, you know, but this map is pretty close, so it was favoring Clem, but it also goes both ways. You know, that means that Serral is able to, you know, send his Ultras and Links to Clem's base a bit quicker as well. And even still blocking that CC with that Burrowed Ling there. And what does really Clem has? I mean, he's got 2 Ghosts, 3 Marines, and 3 Marauders, and he knows it. He's going to go ahead and GG out. Serral going to go ahead and take game 1. I'm ready, you're ready, we are all ready, and hope you guys are ready too, as we are here for game number 2. Now spawning at the bottom left, we got the Frenchman playing for Team Liquid. Put your hands together for Clem.
And the top right, Romance Esports, he is the Finnish Zerg. His name is Serral.
Alright, so Data C, and you know, that last map, it did favor Ultralist play, I think, because, you know, the spaces was so wide open, while, you know, Ultralists are fat and chunky, you can still maneuver through. But this map, a little bit different. There's a little bit more choke areas, not as many wide open spaces. And so I don't expect Serral to go for Ultralist again. Maybe Ling, Mutalist, Banelings, maybe, you know, instead of Mutalist, maybe Hydralist? What do you think?
On this map, I have seen Lurkers come a bit back into favor from some players, just because you have a lot of ramps that you can take advantage of on your bases, and so the Lurkers will end up being quite good. However, I do expect this to kind of be a similar standard to last game. I don't think that Serral's really going to go, you know, super crazy with his tech. I think, you know, standard Ling Bane defense as usual, and everything else will probably follow a similar pattern as Clem. This guy out there that it was in fact a hatchery first, so nothing super crazy in terms of the build order. This was not a pool first like last game. It was in game 1 a pool first. Which I think makes it kind of surprising that, even more so that with the fact that Clem went for fast 3CC, you still had Serral just outgrow him and survive. You know, it's just crazy. As Clem is gonna try and harass here with the Reaper, and yeah, realistically, I mean, he's gonna get his Zergling, so hey, it's a nice trade. But these trades overall are not gonna affect the game in the long run. Not able to get the creep tumor just yet, as factory on the way. He's going to be finishing up. This should be the Hellion play again, I think, from Clem. Yeah, and even third command center. One of the biggest, I think, complaints or issues that I've seen with Clem, that a lot of people have been kind of pointing out and looking at and wondering why that's the case, is the fact that Clem will go for almost the same opening every single game in TVZ without fail. I've seen a lot of people look at this and say, oh, well, why? Because there's definitely a lot of other options available here. So, you know, why is that the case? And so I definitely feel like this is an opening that Clem is doing, that he's probably he's comfortable with it, but it's not really gonna make anything crazy happen in this game.
Yeah, I think especially with the third base, nothing too crazy. By the way, I think your mic is a little bit too low.
Oh,
yeah.
There we go. Hello.
There we go. There we go. All right. So while I say nothing too crazy, it looks like actually Cloak is starting to research. So maybe it's a little bit of caster curse, but at least it's not like a 1-2 base battlecruiser rush or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let's just look at this. Serral's so good with the scouting. He just has an Overlord flying over. Clem, yeah, only produced 1 Marine, so this was gonna happen, regardless, just because there was the only singular Marine that was not enough to stop this Overlord. So Serral gets full information, make sure he's scouting. We'll see if that cloak is actually canceled, but it might just be a situation where Clem says, well, you know, you scouted it, but I'm still just gonna go for it because there's a chance that maybe you think I'm gonna cancel it, and then you don't build spore crawlers, you know, or something crazy like that. And that actually seems to be the case. Serral right now is going to be adding on spore crawlers now, and I think this should actually time out. I'm sure Serral knows the timings so that these finish right as Cloak is going to be done.
All right, Clem doing a great job poking at the front, and once again trying to do his best to keep the creep spread at bay, which he did a really great job in the last game. It's kind of unfortunate that it didn't pan out for him because, you know, one of the hardest thing to do is to keep the creep, you know, recessed as it did, especially when, you know, the Zerg players usually nowadays open up with so many queens, and queens has so many energy for those creep tumor.
Yeah. I mean, already sitting at 9 queens. There are 2 banshees out on the map. 3rd command center has been placed down for Clem already, but Serral matching it with his own 4th hatchery. That's 1-1 start up. Stim, and going up to 5 racks. This all looks a pretty stock standard. You know, of course, the Banshees are going to add in a little bit of a nuisance here, as one of the Banshees is going to get sniped. A queen for a Banshee is not altogether the best trade here for Clem, just because those queens are pretty easily replenishable. You know, right now, Serral is just sitting on, yeah, I believe just the 4 gas that are mining. Oh no, actually has added on to 5th, so has a bit more gas, just because he wants to get out those upgrades, +1/+1 and central through the hooks. But you're still going to have plenty of mineral income in order to replace those queens. So overall, Clem, he's working on clearing up the creep, and that's probably the most important part of this, is denying that creep spread, especially on Data C. This is a map where the creep can get out of control very, very easily because of the rock walls and just with how the map is shaped. And so I am liking how Serral is starting to spread it, and Clem, in response, how he is trying to contain it, but already you're looking at that creep spread approaching the halfway point. Tanks on the way, Marines as well, 2nd factory. This is pretty much the same push off of the opener from Clem. You know, he's not really doing anything crazy right now. This is the exact same build, just with the Banshees added on instead of going straight into the Marine tanks. Is, yeah, has to pick on up there with the Marines and get on out. And so we'll see where Clem decides to kind of transition this. You know, we see some players, they like to go for the just like constant tank production. Clem does a lot of times go for instead 3 Widow Mines at a time off of these factories. We'll see what his choice is on this map, though. Data C is a map where I think the tanks are a lot better, just because of the high grounds. Ooh. If I'm not risking that pickup, it's just gonna snipe the 1 Baneling and get away. But we have another double drop also heading out to the map, and so we're gonna get a little pressure applied here by Clem.
Yeah, luckily for Serral, he does have the watch hour, so he does see sees this incoming push here onto the bottom right. And it looks like Serral dealing with both drops with relative ease. Doesn't suffer too much damage. And again, really just basically surviving with just Lings and Banelings as he techs up into Lurker Tech.
There we go. Target fire is good on the bottom side of the map. And we're going to see Clem just snipe off a few here and there, just trying to be efficient, just trying to, you know, pretty much not lose as much as possible. The goal here for the Terran is you keep as many of these Marines alive as possible while continuing to grow on the other side. And I think Clem has done that. 4th base is on the way. Right now, Serral is double expanding to 2 hatcheries, but has not gotten, has not actually gotten 1 established. Just it's like straight up cancels that hatchery on the right side. That 5th base option is going to be canceled as Widow Mines come in and more Marines are added on. Serral is getting into Hydralisks, though. It's going to be Groove Spines. We're going to be heading into Lurkers, as +2/+2 for both players is now almost about halfway done, if not more. But so far, I think Clem is comfortable with this position. You know, 4 bases is going to be looking to expand to a 5th. I would love to see Clem start to add on his tech a bit quicker. I think that one of the big issues we saw in that last game is that Clem did not transition to the late game soon enough. He was kind of stuck on Marine Marauder, and then he started to add in, ooh, big Mine Harass there. And also Mine Harass there at the 5th, but he started to add in Ghost, but they were just not in high enough numbers that was really did anything, and he was still on a super high Widowmine count when you want to start adding in more tanks. And I think that was where we saw a lot of the issues with then defending in that late game, and that's where you see a lot of other Terran players like Maru. They add on, you know, they start double producing tanks at that point. They produce 2 at a time. They get their Ghost count up to a much healthier count, and so I would love to see Clem prepare that transition ahead of time. We already see that Ghost Academy coming down as +3 has started, and the 6th command center is being built. Ooh.
Oh, trying to deal with the attack on 2 fronts here, and yeah, that Hydralisk, you know, kind of a addition, at least compared to the last game, really helping him out this time around. He doesn't really need to worry too much about, you know, oh, actually hold that thought. There's another Widowmine drop here. It doesn't get too much done once again, but you know, it's always kind of annoying to have to pay attention to that. And it's like, you know, got to pay attention to that single dot on the minimap while trying to focus on all these harassment that Clem is putting on.
Yeah, as drop on the right side is gonna get cleaned up. Clem not quite paying attention.
Yeah, you see that.
He's preparing this push on the left as Widowmines are gonna start to burrow. Pre-split setup in tank position. This is one of the very deadly tank positions at the 5th base. Yeah, you need to lift that off. I don't think there's any question about it. Liftoff is going to come through. It might even still be sniped despite that as Clem is pressuring. He's going to snipe the 5th, though, of Serral at the same time. Mind you, at home, Ghosts are being built already. And I love this. I mean, Clem really, I think, doing what he needs to do to fix what happened last game. The Ghosts are already in production. 3-3 is on the way. 5th has to be canceled again. Keeping Serral down to this low base count.
Yeah, you know how we were talking about last game where the bases are pretty close together? Well, this one is also kind of the same thing. Once you get to the later stages, the bases are like practically touching one another.
And that trade, I mean, pretty good there for Clem right now. 3,000 resources lost in the lead. As Widowmine drop has managed to skirt by here, is going to speed burrow, just try and find a little bit more damage. Serral was able to clean it up in time, but Nidus Worm on the way, and this is where Serral's going to look to try and find an advantage. He already has seismic spines being researched. I believe Burrowing Claws. No, with Claws upgraded. So the burrow speed has not been done for the lurkers, but you have seismic spines on the way, and that of course means that these lurkers will have that extra range, and you're going to be looking for the backstabs with a nice network. As look at these mine drags onto the army of Clem. One is finally going to connect decently well, but Clem just does not have any static defense. And again, this is where I feel like you need to add in more tanks. A tank line here would stop this. That Widowmine does get a massive connection, but you're not going to be able to bet on that 100% of the time against Serral, especially. He's so good at dodging those. Does back up now. There we go. Claws, the bro speed on the way now. And Nidus Worm can be placed here into the main. Serral has it set up, has that option ready.
Jesus.
Don't have any units. Yeah.
Yeah, these Widowmines, man.
Yeah, they're pretty good. As there we go, Nidus Worm into the main. Clem, he's migrating to the front, so he's not quite paying attention. At the same time, he's going to be able to focus down the banelings, though, at the front. He's taking an amazing trade at the front, but guess what is coming into the main base? It's lurkers. The tank is going to set up, but I mean, it's not setting up fast enough, and that is so many lurkers, 8 of them into the main base. Marauders are also being brought in to help deal with this, but the tank is focused down. Liberators will be the next response, and they should be able to stop, for the most part, these lurkers, but this is just, yeah. I mean, 9 workers killed, 1 lurker is going to survive, and this just buys Serral so much time, you know, as the whole army has to be moved back, and now Serral's going to come in. Banelings are going to blow up the 5th once again. There's really not much that Serral can do about it. It's not the best trade for him, but hey, you are going to deny those bases, and at the same time, Nidus Worm is once again going to be killed. Serral just being, I mean, I feel like building a Viking here just to deal with this observer or this overseer would not be a bad idea.
Yeah, that's gonna be a threat. You know, if you kind of leave it to be, and then they can always have the Serral's always gonna have the ability to throw down a Nidus Worm throughout the whole game. So yeah, I wouldn't mind throwing down a Viking to snipe that off. But I think the more troublesome is at the front here, as the 6 o'clock base is going to be under fire very soon. Looks like Serral going to go ahead and just wait for his Viper energy to replenish first before committing in. But once again, Nidus at the top side.
Yeah, and we are seeing Clem start to add on tanks, but I feel like it's not enough. You know, one tank at a time really does not do enough. As great EMPs there onto the Vipers is going to deny a lot of the energy, but the whole army just isn't here, and I don't think Serral realizes how much of the army was committed in the main there. It was a good chunk, because now the Lurkers are going to head towards this third base, but there should be a response ready. You already have a missile turret and tanks. Their scan is going to go down, snipes as well, and yeah, that's going to be denied very, very well. But still, I would love to see Clem get, you know, stronger fortifications here. One tank at a time. I don't think it's enough. You need a third factory. At this point in the game, you're working off 7 barracks. You have the money for it. Where is that factory? As Widowmine drop is going to come through onto the 6th base here. So far, yeah, finds decent damage, but altogether not that much. The Widowmines will escape, though. The 5th of Serral, of course, has been up for a while, as this base is not going to be allowed to go up. Widowmines. Oh, fungal growth, but the Widowmines denying the Banelings. As Clem, I mean, by the skin of his teeth, is going to survive that engagement. That was so scary, but he was bailed out by the splash damage there of the Widowmines, as now he's going to be able to push down this 5th base, and with the 5th base going down, as a massive loss for Serral, as Banelings are being built. Clem's going to have to back on up. He's so low with so many of these bio units. Oh, another fungal! Serral, just so good there. The ghosts try to get out, but they're sniped. And guess what? There's just no tanks for this backline. GG. Serral's going to get the win. There was just not enough to fortify that push. And if Serral does get this 3-0 and goes on to face MaxPax, it's one of those situations where it feels like MaxPax is not even going to have an easier matchup, because obviously Heroes PvP is not his best matchup. And so that's a bit of a situation where, you know, MaxPax can really flex his skill there. But who has the better PvZ? If Serral wins this, I mean, I'd have to give that to Hero. And so it's going to be a really interesting scenario. Of course, Clem still has a life left here, but just with how, with how much pressure Clem has been applying, with how much he's been doing in these games, and with how convincing the ending of them still are, where Serral just rolls over him, you know, it's hard to look at Clem in this situation and say, yeah, you can, if you do the same thing and you micro it maybe better, or you macro it better, you're going to be able to win. I still think there are places to improve, you know? I definitely feel like if we do end up seeing Clem add on more tanks in the late game there, that can be a massive boon to him. And that's definitely a place where we've seen Clem falter before, is he goes for this very quick 3rd CC, but then sticks on this tier 2 tech for a really long time and doesn't really, I think, get the necessary units. Like, the Liberators are good, but I feel like in most scenarios, the tanks are just a better option for zoning out a lot of the Zerg army and for protecting your own bases.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, Clem just... Oh wow. He loses that Reaper, which is uncharacteristic of Clem, you know, considering he is so great at his micro. So maybe these past 2 games just kind of putting him a little bit on edge here. It is a little bit discouraging when you're down 0-2 against someone by the likes of Serral. It's like you got to play 3 perfect games essentially, and that is a tall order.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's, yeah, I mean, same opening so far. Fast 3rd CC. Hellions coming on out. Tech Lab on the barracks. It is all the same from Clem right now, and it's inside and out. It's a map that's of similar size to Data C. The rush distance is, I think, almost just as long, because you have these little ramps and these bridges here that make it hard to get across in a straight line. We're going to see this first Hellion push out. It actually might be able to cancel a creep tumor there. Clem doesn't want to commit on into it. As this is, yeah, this is bad. Zerglings get into the bases. That's not supposed to happen. This is going to be denied mining time. This is going to be just overall a nuisance that Clem has to deal with. And, you know, any lead that Serral gets at this point, any slight advantage, it just feels like that's something that he's going to continue to compound more and more, as already we're seeing 42 workers here for the Zerg to the 33 of the Terran. Is, of course, how you expect it to go this early in the game, but just the fact that Clem takes, loses that mining time, it might slow down pushes later on. And then if you slow down those pushes, well, the Zerg has more time to kind of get everything together. So we'll see how much that really does take effect. It's going to be the Cloak Banshee once again, though, for Clem.
All right, gonna go ahead and try to make that work. And not only did he force the mining time off of those with those the SVDs, but also, with the Hellions going back to defend, that does leave Serral to basically spread the creep more. Instead of the Hellions poking in at the edge of the creep, they were instead at his base trying to defend, or clean up the links. And so Serral, you can see his creep spread much better and going in all different directions. And Clem finally establishes their base here.
Yeah, as we are just seeing Serral kind of go for the exact same build, and again, no reason to really change anything. +1/+1 on the way for the Ling Bane. Centrifugal hooks should be the follow-up fairly shortly after this. I think the gas, is a little bit low here for Serral to start it up right away. Double Cloak Banshee, though, are going to be able to deny this 5th base. They just have enough DPS to force the cancel there. Are going to be able to kill the drone as well. So that will slow down Serral just a little bit here for Clem, who's working on his stim, working on his +1/+1, and his 4th and 5th barracks. It is actually quite a bit later, though, than the Zergs, which is just, going to make things a little bit harder here for the Terran when you have that upgrade disadvantage. As other than that, everything pretty normal. Tanks on the way for the early defense. Should see that second factory added on once Clem has the money. And then he'll start that Widow Mine production. 5th base is going up again. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded those Banshees actually staying there just to deny that 5th base location even longer. But Clem is swinging them around in case Serral had chosen to take the other 5th. He's going to see that that's not the case. And so now the Banshees just going to be roaming around. They will be marauders, roaming marauders. Not the unit, but the other definition. Just trying to cause as much chaos as possible and find damage wherever they can.
Yeah, these Banshee hasn't really gotten too much done, besides of course the canceled hatchery. But all in all, hasn't been able to pick off much. Maybe he can start picking off some additional units, but looks like he will be greeted with 5 queens, 5 juicy, healthy little queens there.
Yeah, and actually to correct myself, I think that was the 4th base that was actually canceled there by Clem, which is, even better for him. That means that Serral actually was significantly slowed down, finally took the 4th at this triangular position, but was not the first choice there for Serral. +1/+1 combat shields. The 4th command center is also on the way, and that 2nd factory has finally been added on. That will be a reactor there with the armory. Oh, it's a... Snoopy, he's learning. Second tech lab on the way, and that just means that we will be getting that consistent tank production here from Clem. Just saying, listen, I actually need to turtle up more. I need to be even safer in these situations. I should not be sticking on the Widow Mines as long as I can. I still think the Widow Mines are good, and we see one here is gonna be a little bit nice for weakening up the queens, but that's just gonna be double tank production. That +1 for the tank should also be started up fairly shortly. As well as Clem is gonna be pressuring 2 fronts. However, there's plenty of Ling Bane to go around. It is a very it's a unit composition that gives you a lot to work with for sure. Here we go. Clem just getting on out, 4th base being established, and these tank lines are going to start to be set up, and the nice thing about Inside Out is that once you get further into the game, there are a lot of kind of tank positions that you can get. You see the one outside of the third here that you can set up with a bit of information. Can also force the creep back as Sling Bank continuing to force these units back. But we have a big push coming on the right side of the map. Serral is going to have to consolidate a good chunk of his army, but instead he's just going to go for a run by. He says, you know what? Why not? And that's just going to get straight into the natural, and this could actually be game ending if Clem does not find enough damage on the other side of the map. He's trying to deny the 5th, but at the same time, I mean, his own bases are going to start to go down. He's going to start to lose workers as this tank absorbing a lot of damage, but it's not enough. As 5th base is sniped, Clem going to continue to make his way on forward. Look how many Banelings there are, though, here from Serral. As the main is under fire, you know, you can't continue to freeze his units. They are fighting well, but look at this collapse from Serral. He just has so much. As there's not a lot of splash damage here for Clem. He has to pick up. He has to get out. He's down to 128 supply. And Clem just knows how to make the right moves. Or Serral just knows how to make the right moves as he completely decimates the Terran. 30 SCVs go down. It's just even more as the 3rd base is now under attack. And that just might be the game.
Yeah, it just seems Serral has Clem's number. A huge Ling run by, just doing so much damage to Clem's economy as well as the production, because of course the Ling got into the main base and that's where all his production is. And you see a tank just popped out into a surrounded Ling attack, and yeah, this is pretty much it. Clem taps on out, and Serral gonna go ahead and stay perfect. Gonna go ahead and take the series 3-0.